Part 45. Shock, the love letter was sent to the Empress by mistake. Author, Mozuzi. Chapter 442. You actually. Aoian's actions stunned the many dragons who were watching. They never thought that Aolan would dare to do such a blasphemous act. Sprinkling dragon blood on the throne of the Dragon King in front of Aosin was undoubtedly an insult and blasphemy. This ancestor who has guarded the dragon clan for countless years, any dragon in the dragon clan can only respect him. Aoian's absurd and bold behavior has completely exceeded their cognition. What on earth do you want to do? Don't you want to die? Several dragon elders were completely dumbfounded. There was even anger in their expressions. Although Aolan was the Dragon King, he was still far from the status of Aosin's ancestor in their hearts. Even if he was the Dragon King, how could he be qualified to be compared with the ancestors who guarded the dragon clan for generations? More importantly, Aoian's strength has improved rapidly over the past few hundred years. But she actually dared to make such a blasphemous act. If Aosin's ancestors were really angry, it would only take a snap of a finger to kill her, even if there was only a trace of remnant soul left. Unable to stop Aoian's absurd behavior, Zonglong's heart was churning and he didn't know how to deal with the situation in front of him. They suddenly found that the majestic Dragon King's throne made of dragon bones had something strange. Aoian's golden blood flowed on the dragon bones. Under its influence, the extremely tough dragon bones that even the heavenly magic weapon could not cut began to crack. The dragon bones have broken. Not only that, the blood essence contained in the dragon throne, which was once injected by Aosin himself, was like encountering a huge enemy. It kept boiling, and even compared to Aoian's golden blood, the color became a little eclipsed. The churning blood seemed to be in endless pain, and the throne made of dragon bones was filled with more and more cracks amidst the shrill grinding sound. At this moment, the golden dragon phantom transformed by Aosin's residual soul showed a trace of astonishment. In front of his extremely pure blood, any dragon king sitting on this chair was in awe. Even if it was just that strand of blood, when he looked down on the dragon kings of all generations, he seemed to be full of arrogant disdain. Even if he had witnessed the generations of dragon kings, the purity of those dragon bloodlines was not something he could take seriously. But as Aoian's dragon blood fell on the dragon throne, the situation became completely different from before. Not only did the dragon bones begin to crack, Aosin could even clearly feel that a ray of flame that seemed to be burning was constantly burning his soul. This feeling is wrong. What on earth is this? There was a trace of astonishment in the golden dragon's eyes. Looking at Aoian's petite and delicate body, which was not even 1/10 of his own shadow, Aosin no longer had any contempt. When he looked into Aoian's stubborn eyes, he felt an extremely strong sense of oppression. This kind of pressure was even comparable to those ancient dragon comrades. This is more than just the atavism of blood. The degree of atavism of Aolan and the dragon ancestors' blood has even surpassed the purity of the blood essence I left in this throne. Who? The golden flames have begun to burn from the tail of Aosin's shadow. Although the flames dotted with dragon blood seem small, they seem to contain extremely terrifying power. The flames first burned from Aosin's tail, and then spread. The whole tail, half of the dragon body, and even the virtual image of the whole dragon body. In the blink of an eye, Aosin's shadow was completely engulfed by the flames. The remaining remnant soul was constantly suffering from an extremely painful burning sensation. It seemed to come from the origin of the soul, gradually eroding the virtual image he had evolved and the remaining remnant soul. This bloodline is really the first time I have seen it since I left this remnant soul. Aosin's dragon face actually showed a hint of excitement. He kept driving the power in his body, trying to turn all the remaining power of his remnant soul to resist this flame. Boom! Hoo! The wind swept, and waves of strong oppression swept around. The golden blood that Aolan spilled on the dragon chair trembled, and Aosin's blood was constantly boiling. But it was obvious that as time went on, the blood essence left by Aoseing seemed a little dim. The pain came one after another, and he twisted his dragon body, but he could not get rid of the swallowing of the golden flame anyway. In Aoian's resolute eyes, the increasingly strong dragon vein aura actually made him feel a little fear from the bottom of his heart at this moment. Roar. Accompanied by a painful dragon roar, in the flames, Aoseing's body was actually constantly burning and annihilating, and gradually melted in the flames. This kind of soul-devouring pain is far stronger than being burned in the flames. The body that had guided the dragon clan for countless years actually began to annihilate in the flames. How is it possible? Looking at this scene, whether it is the elders of the dragon clan or those in the deep sea, they are all completely stunned by the scene in front of them. They never thought that Aoseing, who had guided the dragon clan for so many years and was famous for his terrifying strength in the continent in ancient times, would actually be annihilated at this moment. Is this really not a dream? The scene before them clearly told them that it was not an illusion. In the stunned eyes, it was obvious that no dragon had imagined this scene. They simply could not believe that the dragon blood in Aolan could not even resist the residual soul of Aoseing. But in the midst of all these gazes, even though he was engulfed by boundless pain, Aoseing burst into laughter. Ha ha ha, I never expected it, I never expected it. There was no hatred in this smile, but rather a bit of unconcealable joy. I originally thought that as time went by, the dragon race would only become weaker and weaker. But I never expected that, today, after who knows how many years, such a moving dragon king would be born. It seems that my judgment was too ridiculous. The West Sea Dragon Palace, no, it is Aolan, the new dragon king of the entire dragon race. Whether to stay in the dragon palace or stay with this human. All the decision-making power is in your hands, and you can judge for yourself. Because, with your strength, you are already enough to decide your own dragon life, which is far beyond our ability to interfere. Enjoy your travels, whether it is the sea or the endless sky, it should belong to you. You are the strongest dragon king in this new era. Not restricted by heaven and earth, and not subject to any dragon race rules. Aoseing said this with a wild laugh in the astonished eyes of countless dragons. Then, the huge dragon body was shattered. P.S. Recently, many old books have been hit hard by the start of school. Zuza's data has also dropped to less than 1/3 of the holiday, and the number of people who follow the book has been decreasing day by day. Recently, I have witnessed many author partners cutting books. To be honest, the current data of this book really can't make a living. If it were another author, he might have cut the book and run away long ago. But after more than half a year, Zuzi has a deep affection for this book and the characters in the book. This is the first time I have written such a long book, and it is also the first time I have the hope of writing a book that can reach 1 million. So Zuzi will not give up, and will definitely work hard to reach 1 million, complete the story, and complete the wedding of the Empress. I also hope that everyone can support Zuzi more in the less than 1 month left, and accompany Zuzi to finish watching the wedding of the Empress. Shock, the love letter was sent to the Empress by mistake. Author, MaleProtagonist. Chapter 443. The majestic golden dragon's body suddenly disappeared. At this moment, looking at the scene in front of them, the dragons were completely stunned. Not only did Aoseing's residual soul disappear between heaven and earth, but even the dragon chair made of his dragon bones suddenly shattered and scattered all over the ground. Aoseing's trace has completely disappeared. Even the elders of the dragon clan who have experienced many years and have a wide range of experience were all shocked and pale, with unbelievable eyes. They never thought that Aoseing, who had guarded the West Sea Dragon Palace for an unknown period of time since ancient times, would completely disappear at this moment. But the words left by Aoseing before he disappeared, echoed clearly in their minds. Aoian's bloodline is even more terrifying than Aoseing's ancestor. So much so that Aoseing, who was at a disadvantage, was willing to be engulfed by the flames and let Aolan leave the sea. The words passed down by Aosing's ancestors should have been regarded as divine wills and obeyed solemnly. But facing his disappearance, the eyes of many dragon elders changed slightly. Aoian's bloodline is indeed terrible, so terrible that even the ancestors of the dragon clan told her personally that she could follow her own ideas. But, looking at each other silently, dozens of dragon elders showed inconsistent expressions. Aolan can't leave. Although they didn't say anything, their thoughts in their hearts were tacitly unified at the same time. Even if the ancestor Aosing personally allowed Aolan to leave, they would never keep their promise. Because everything that happened just now has further proved to them how important Aoian's bloodline is to the Dragon Palace. Even if Aolan is not allowed to ascend to the throne of the Dragon King, even if she is imprisoned in the deep sea, Aolan must be kept in the Dragon Palace. Dozens of dragon elders exchanged glances, and a hint of sharpness appeared at the same time. Suddenly, a dragon elder stepped in front of the dragons and shouted loudly. All dragons and sea tribes listen to my order. Today, Aolan Dragon King must stay in the Dragon Palace. Don't let her leave no matter what. If this human wants to stop her, we will kill him at all costs. The dragon elders naturally knew Nai-Chen's identity, and they knew very well that if they really attacked Nai-Chen, it would definitely cause the wrath of the empress who had just announced her love affair. But even so, compared with Aoian's value, they would rather take the biggest risk. As long as they can keep Aolan, at worst they can abandon the Dragon Palace and take Aolan away. But no matter what, they definitely don't intend to let Aolan go. The many dragons and sea tribes were stunned for a moment. As Aolan is the Dragon King, they obviously don't know whether to follow the order to attack Aolan. But under the threatening eyes of more than a dozen people full of murderous intent, the Dragon Palace soldiers were silent for only a moment and made up their minds. Boom boom. The strange beasts in the water surged, and countless armies surrounded the Dragon Palace layer by layer. It was airtight, as if there was no way to the sky and no door to the earth. The army in the Dragon Palace had completely blocked the way. What are you doing? Are you going to rebel? Plus, the old dragon Aana, who had always been partial to Aolan, was panicked. Although he also wanted Aolan to stay in the Dragon Palace, he did not expect it to turn into this situation. Rebellion is fine, but no matter what, the Dragon King must stay in the Dragon Palace. The Dragon Elders seemed to have no intention of hiding their true thoughts, and completely ignored Aana who was blocking them. He didn't intend to think of the old relationship at all. The Dragon King is a necessary existence for the revitalization of our dragon clan. If you dare to stop us, you will die as well. Besides that, the eyes of the elders of the dragon clan looked at Nai-Chen beside Aolan at the same time, as if they were determined to kill him. Nai-Chen, for the sake of the Empress, we have given you a chance. Since you still don't repent and want to take the Dragon King away, be prepared to pay the price for your arrogance. However, in the face of such a threat, Nai-Chen did not move a step. He even smiled and looked down at Aolan, feeling quite good. You can stick to your heart and even use dragon blood to annihilate the residual soul of Aosing. Today, you have made great progress. Really? It's rare to hear Nai-Chen's serious praise. Aolan couldn't help but lower his head with some joy. Nai-Chen. But the scene in front of him completely angered the elders of the dragon clan. Not only did he want to take Aolan away, Nai-Chen also ignored their dignity and didn't take them seriously at all. Such a provocation was enough to drive them crazy. Listen to my command, take back the Dragon King, and kill this man here. Accompanied by the angry roar of the elders, the densely packed dragons covering the sea moved in unison. The dark army seemed to completely swallow up the two voices wrapped in it. In addition to the countless huge dragon bodies that appeared, there were many Dragon Palace armies. The golden dragon bodies transformed by dozens of elders, with dazzling golden scales and a mighty power completely different from other dragons, completely blocked the road ahead. The huge body stared down at Nai Chen from above, as if judging him. Roar! Accompanied by the roar of the dragon, countless armies rushed down, and the dozen dragon elders were filled with murderous intent and were also going to attack and kill. Even the entire West Sea Dragon Palace was shaking with the surging sea water in the battle that was about to break out. You dare! But at this moment, Ao Ian's expression changed instantly, and an extremely majestic look appeared in his blue eyes. The voice was obviously very small, but it spread to the surroundings, as if it had an extremely powerful pressure. A wave of aftermath turned into water waves and spread to the surroundings. As Ao Ian's voice fell, many Dragon Palace armies suddenly stopped for a moment. I don't know how many shrimp soldiers and crab generals trembled, and even the surging dragons couldn't help but feel fear and terror in their hearts. Because Ao Ian's extremely pure atavistic bloodline has a sense of oppression from the origin. As a dragon king, even if he had just arrived in the sea opening realm not long ago, the dragon power exuded by Ao Lan was terrible enough to be comparable to any dragon king. Go on, if you don't do it, do you want the dragon king to leave the dragon palace? It was the voice of the dragon elder that made the army regain consciousness. Charge, charge! Resisting the trembling in their hearts, the army rushed down again. What if I'm included? At this moment, Nai Chen sneered and stared at the scene in front of him calmly. As his voice fell, a huge emperor's power merged with Ao Ian's dragon power and suddenly spread to the surroundings. At this moment, the footsteps of the dragon army came to an abrupt halt. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Shock, the love letter was sent to the Empress by mistake. Author, MaleProtagonist. Chapter 444. Boom. Accompanied by a powerful pressure sweeping in all directions, the Dragon Palace army all stopped at the same time. When they looked at Nai Chen and Ao Lan again, their eyes were clearly filled with fear and astonishment. The trembling from the bottom of their hearts has made them unable to move forward. And not only these Dragon Palace armies with different strengths, but at this moment, even a dozen Dragon Palace elders were completely dumbfounded. Even the golden dragon body was mighty and seemed to have the majesty of being a dragon, but at this moment, they were all filled with fear. Because, the oppressive feeling brought by the fusion of the two pressures was something that even they could not bear. How is it possible? Old Dragon Aana couldn't help but stand there. Not only did he not expect that the dragon power of Ao Lan and the emperor power of Nai Chen would be combined to emit such a terrifying sense of oppression. What surprised him even more was that he could clearly feel a mighty dragon power on Nai Chen. It seemed that it was this dragon power that made the great emperor's majesty on Nai Chen burst out with enough fear to make the dragons feel 10 or even 100 times more. But why does Nai Chen have dragon power? Isn't that the breath that only the dragons can emit? Stunned in place, the entire dragon palace seemed to fall into a dead silence. They naturally didn't know that Nai Chen had an ancient holy body that could perfectly integrate the characteristics of other physiques. And the golden carp that Nai Chen had eaten had strengthened his physique comparable to that of the dragons, and he could even emit dragon power. When this dragon power merged with the great emperor's majesty, the majesty that erupted was enough to make any dragon feel the trembling from the depths of their hearts. Seeing Nai Chen was like seeing another dragon king. Its mighty power was like a pair of eyes from the abyss, staring at them, making no dragon dare to resist. Now, can I leave? Nai Chen looked around, his voice was cold, but it sounded like spring thunder. Countless figures couldn't help but tremble. The Dragon Palace army that had just surged in was now trembling with fear like a minister seeing the emperor, or a mouse meeting a house cat. Even those dragon elders with deep cultivation were unable to suppress the boundless fear in their hearts. They couldn't figure out why Nai Chen could burst out such a terrible dragon power, but the trembling in their hearts seemed to constantly remind them. Don't resist, otherwise, there is only one way to go. If you want to leave, we dare not stop you. The look he looked at Aolan was extremely entangled, but in the increasingly strong sense of oppression, the dragon elders who even felt that the dragon's spine was about to be crushed by it finally couldn't hold on any longer. Unable to disobey, he bowed down and bowed to Nai Chen respectfully. We are the same. At the same time, the other dragon elders also tried to hold back the blood that was about to be vomited, and hurriedly bowed down to answer. The four Cs were solemn, and there was no more resistance. In that case, I will take Aolan away. Yes. Sure enough, although the dragon clan is generally powerful, they can't resist the oppression from the blood. Looking at the silent dragon palace, Nai Chen smiled with satisfaction. Then he took Aoian's hand again, and flew towards the sea without stopping. The two figures slowly moved away from the dragon palace, but no one dared to stop them. Countless eyes could only watch the two leave. Their plan had been completely shattered, and no one expected that under Nai Chen's protection. Obviously, they had already made up their minds to stop Aolan no matter what. But at this moment, they dared not move forward. Seeing the two figures of a man and a dragon breaking through the sea water, they were about to leave the dragon palace. Finally, Aana couldn't help but speak to the distance. Dragon King, can you tell us how long you plan to renew the pet contract with Nai Chen? Hearing this question, Aoian's figure stopped in the sea for a moment. The blue eyes swept over, but she only answered. 1 year? 2 years? Maybe short or long, or maybe. Who knows? Anyway, I will fulfill my duty as the Dragon King to protect the Dragon Palace, but I will not stay in the Dragon Palace forever. Turning around playfully, Aolan quickly floated back to Nai Chen. The sea water surged gently, and some small water animals without spiritual consciousness slowly floated towards Aolan, as if they liked her very much and wanted to get close to her. Aolan is the Dragon King of the West Sea and the Daughter of the Sea. But at this moment, holding Nai Chen's hand, she jumped out of the sea without hesitation. And in her smile, there was a joy that was completely different from being in the Dragon Palace. Because outside the sea, there are countless places she wants to go, and people she wants to accompany. Although that guy is a black-hearted boss, often rides dragons, and often bullies dragons. There was silence in the sea, looking at the two departing figures from afar. At this moment, no dragon went to stop them. They couldn't understand Aoian's thoughts, but maybe it was really as Aolan said. It was because of being by Nai Chen's side that her strength could be improved so quickly. What she yearned for would become higher and higher. The throne of the Dragon King was shattered, but the new throne would be built soon. Because the Dragon King in the Dragon Palace has been wandering outside and has not returned. Standing in front of the dragons, although Aana looked vicissitudes, he couldn't help but smile with a hint of satisfaction between his eyebrows. That little girl seems to have grown up a little. But what made her grow so fast seemed to be neither the Dragon Palace nor the burden of being a Dragon King, but... Thinking about it, Aana looked up at the water, smiled a little vicissitudes and shook his head. He would naturally not say these words to other dragons, and no dragon would believe that a human could have such a great impact on the dragon clan. But he was very sure that leaving the Dragon Palace would not do Aolan any harm. On the contrary, her path forward would be completely incomparable to the Dragon Kings of all generations. As for the pet contract, I guess the Dragon King never considered himself a pet. It's really hard for Nai Chen to take care of her. As an old dragon who has watched Aolan grow up since she was a child, Aana couldn't help but laugh when he thought of this. In his smile, there was a bit of nostalgia and vicissitudes for the fleeting time. Shock, the love letter was sent to the Empress by mistake. Author, Mozuzi. Chapter 445. Falling on the top of the Tianyun Palace, Aolan couldn't help laughing when he recalled the scene just now. I didn't expect that the overwhelming Dragon Palace army could give up resistance just by relying on the sense of oppression. This is too powerful. Nai Chen smiled. Otherwise, what do you think would happen just now? Of course I thought those dragon elders would stop me at all costs and order all the Dragon Palace army to rush forward. Then this Dragon King will show his strength and kill them without armor, and then leave the Dragon Palace in an extremely chic posture. Let them watch me leave. Seemingly very satisfied with his own ideas, Aolan waved his fists childishly, hitting the air in front of him seriously, and was obviously very proud in his heart. Hee, this Dragon King is really powerful. Aolan raised his mouth, as if he had been completely immersed in the imagination of killing people everywhere. That's impossible. At this moment, Nai Chen suddenly poured a basin of cold water on him. Why? Aolan opened his eyes in confusion. Because if we really fight, I won't care about you at all, I will just run away and watch you get beaten. Nai Chen laughed arrogantly. You. Aolan never thought that Nai Chen would answer like this, and his face turned red with anger and shame. But after looking up at Nai Chen, Aoian's angry feeling disappeared completely after just a moment. I don't believe it. Why don't you believe it? Because I don't believe you will abandon me. With a flash of light in his azure eyes, Aolan suddenly came up and hugged Nai Chen's legs. With his eyelashes drooping, Aoian's eyes revealed a completely different feeling from the past. There was no more playfulness when joking, but more of a trace of calmness, a trace of trust, and unprecedented seriousness. Looking at Aolan, who suddenly became quiet, Nai Chen couldn't help but feel a trace of warmth in his heart. It seems that seeing that he was only one step away from the Dragon King, Aolan realized his true thoughts. What she said at this moment was obviously from the bottom of her heart. That is why she seemed so serious and calm, even a little sad. A smile appeared on the corner of Nai Chen's mouth, and he lowered his voice. Today you followed your inner choice, and unexpectedly showed the majesty of a Dragon King. Yes, it is worth a reward. What do you want? Do you want to eat some golden carp? Based on his understanding of Aolan, the glutton born in his stomach, Nai Chen almost believed that this little guy would definitely choose to eat a big meal of golden carp. But this time, Aoian's answer was completely beyond his expectations. Shaking his head, Aolan stared at Nai Chen, revealing a very serious feeling in his eyes. I don't want the golden carp for the reward this time. What I want is, I want to know how to grow and become stronger quickly, and I want to hear about your experience of such rapid progress in cultivation. Oh. Nai Chen couldn't help but be surprised by this question. Aolan was able to overcome the glutton in his stomach. This time, he was obviously very serious. But if you want to become stronger quickly, I can help you, but are you sure you want to hear my experience of improving your cultivation? Nai Chen reminded. Of course. Not only did Aolan not change his mind, he said this with a hint of pride. Hee, my knowledge is profound. Your human sages have said a lot about this. Take the essence and discard the dross, there must be a teacher among three people. As long as you are humble and good at learning the advantages of others, you can improve yourself. So, if I learn your method of rapid improvement in cultivation, I will definitely be able to make rapid progress, maybe even faster than you. Nai Chen. Using that little understanding of human knowledge, Aolan actually realized something. It's a pity that this method is not very applicable to me. Hee, how about it, now you know my profound knowledge. Now tell me how you practice, once you learn it, maybe my cultivation will improve by leaps and bounds tomorrow. Aolan was so excited that he even put his hands on his waist and raised his little toes with joy. Nai Chen confirmed again, are you sure you want to listen? Of course. Aolan answered decisively. There was no other way, so Nai Chen could only sigh. Well, I'll tell you. Actually, the way I became stronger is. Ahem, I remember when I expressed my love to the Empress through love letters, I directly improved my realm. Later, when I dated the Empress, my realm and understanding improved rapidly. Oh, not only that, it seems that there were several times when I showed my affection with the Empress and stunned the great Emperor, and all aspects of my strength increased wildly. And when I went to the Holy See for my honeymoon with the Empress, when I was in the Empress's bedroom, when I was showing off my love with the Empress, when I kissed the Empress and slept in the bedroom. What? Nai Chen thought and talked about it, but Aolan beside him was completely dumbfounded. In the experience that Nai Chen talked about, let alone any unique experience that made people shine, she even felt that Nai Chen had never worked hard to practice. But today he showed his affection with the Empress, and tomorrow he went out for a date. Then, I became stronger. This is simply outrageous. How can this be teaching the experience of cultivation? This is simply showing affection with me in different ways. Aolan couldn't believe it at all. I don't believe it. How could such an outrageous thing exist in the world? Do you think I look like a liar? Yes. But, not quite. Aolan had a sad face. Although she believed Nai Chen's words, she felt that this could not be a way for her to become stronger. After all, not to mention that there are so many lovers in the world, only Nai Chen, who is in love with the Empress, is useful. Where can a little female dragon who has been single for more than 200 years go to fall in love? Even if someone really dares to do so, I'm afraid they will be arrested by the government in the next second. Damn it, it's too damned. Not only did she not get the method, but she was also shown affection in a roundabout way. Aolan was full of resentment and still unwilling to give up. Your progress before reaching the great emperor realm is barely acceptable, but what about next? Every small realm of the great emperor realm is extremely difficult to cross. You can't just fall in love to break through. I do have a good way to do this. Nai Chen quickly answered. What good way? I want to hear it. Ao Ian's eyes lit up and he became interested again. After all, this is a way to break through the great emperor realm. If you can really learn it, it's exciting just to think about it. That means with the Empress. However, the two words Nai Chen said in her ear stunned Aolan. Shock, the love letter was sent to the Empress by mistake. Author, Mozuzi. Chapter 446. Proposal. Ao Ian's voice trembled slightly when he said these two words. Are you sure this can really be the key to breaking through to the imperial realm? More importantly, after hearing these two words, Ao Ian's attention was already focused on another more important thing than learning how to practice. You are actually going to propose to the Empress. Although I watched Nai Chen and the Empress show off their affection in various ways all day long, it was almost like they were stuck together every day. Aolan didn't expect that Nai Chen actually planned to propose to the Empress. You know, the Empress just announced her love relationship and already caused an uproar among countless sects in the world. Nowadays, there are countless admirers of the Empress who almost cried to death and are trying their best to draw a circle and curse Nai Chen. Until now, many monks in Lanchuan continent have not been able to recover from the heavy news. But no one knew that Nai Chen had already begun to consider proposing. Don't make any noise about this for now. I also plan to give the Empress a surprise. Nai Chen put his finger on his mouth, indicating to Aolan to keep his voice down. Aolan quickly lowered her voice, but her excitement could no longer be concealed. Can I ask a few questions first? If it's within my acceptable range, just ask. Good. My question is. By the way, when exactly do you plan to propose to the Empress, when will you marry the Empress, and what method will you use when proposing? Send flowers? Send spiritual stones? Send a magic weapon, or something else. And what do you plan to tell the Empress when you propose? You plan to. Ouch, it hurts. Aolan, who was asking questions one after another like a barrage of questions, was suddenly hit on the head by Nai Chen. He immediately covered his head in pain, and the corners of his eyes were sore. Nai Chen was really a little angry and laughed. I asked you to ask questions, but I didn't make you want to ask everything. Is it possible that you even asked the queen what color underwear she wore on the day you proposed to her? Aolan was silent for a long time. What color does the Empress plan to wear that day? Ayo. So, she received another blow on the head. You couldn't help it? As soon as I heard that he was actually proposing to the Emperor, I was so interested that I couldn't control it. Aolan covered her head pitifully, with some tears already filling the corners of her eyes. Although Nai Chen was very gentle, since he reached the realm of the great emperor, even a casual touch was painful. I don't know how the Empress is, lately. Don't worry, you won't be able to see it with your own eyes when the wedding comes. By then, all curiosity will be satisfied. Nai Chen couldn't help but laugh. Yes, during the wedding, I suddenly remembered something. Speaking of this, Ao Ian's eyes suddenly lit up. You say I am a female dragon, but I am also your pet beast. So when it comes time for the wedding, will I be considered the best man or the maid of honor? If I were the best man, I would not be a man yet, but if I were the bridesmaid, I would not be the Empress pet. It's so hard to think about. Nai Chen. Really feeling sorry for Ao Ian's IQ, he had no choice but to say awkwardly, then wouldn't it be great if you could be both the best man and the bridesmaid? Yes, it can still be like this. As if a new continent had been opened up, Aolan jumped up with excitement after hearing these words. I didn't expect that one dragon could take on two roles. He is truly worthy of being the Dragon King, woohoo. But as he jumped, he seemed to suddenly realize that he was in the Tianyun Palace, and he had a happiness that was far away from even sitting on the seat in the Dragon Palace. Turning around and looking at Tianyun Palace, and then at Nai Chen, Ao Ian's eyes gradually calmed down. Approaching Nai Chen, at this moment, her expression turned very serious. Returning to Tianyun Palace is entirely of my own free will, and I have absolutely no regrets. Because being a pet beast is surprisingly, quite fun. With a bit of embarrassing shyness, Aolan whispered. But even though he didn't dare to look Nai Chen in the face and lowered his head slightly, Nai Chen could definitely see the seriousness contained in Ao Ian's words. At this moment, Nai Chen was silent and did not say anything. He just rubbed Ao Ian's head gently, his technique even gentler than before. At this moment, a routine report was being made in Tianyun Palace. Several elders who had been struggling for a long time finally, under the leadership of Elder Wang, couldn't help but bow their hands to Chu Qingyu's pleading. Empress, otherwise I should lead my disciples to the Dragon Palace for rescue. During this year of getting along, many disciples developed feelings for Aolan. Although the child is a Dragon King, he loves Tianyun Palace more than other disciples. What's more important is that the dragon blood in Aolan is extremely pure. For those old dragons, their real purpose may not be just to let Aolan return to the position of Dragon King, but may covet her blood. For those old-fashioned old dragons, the dragon's bloodline is the most important thing. To this end, they may even do anything without any scruples, no matter the cost. If they were allowed to take Aolan back to the Dragon Palace, it would probably be very detrimental to Aolan. Before coming to the main hall, many disciples had begged them to give advice to the Empress. That was why they gritted their teeth and entered the Tianyun Hall, reported the matter truthfully, and begged the Empress to issue an order. At this moment, the elders all looked worried. However, Chu Qingyu answered very coldly, as if she didn't care about their alarmist words, "Forget it, there's no need. This sentence made the elders stunned for a long time. They obviously didn't expect Chu Qingyu to refuse so decisively. In their impression, the empress seemed to like Aolan very much. But why did someone show that he didn't care at this moment? Resisting the trembling in his heart, Elder Wang finally spoke anxiously again. But Empress, if this continues, Aolan. But just halfway through his words, he and several other elders inadvertently felt two familiar breaths returning to the top of the mountain in Tianyun Hall at the same time. That breath is Nai Chen and Aolan. Aolan is back. Elder Wang was stunned. Just now he and the other elders were worried and felt that time was running out, so why did they come back? No wonder the Empress refused so straightforwardly. Could it be that this emperor said that there is no need to rescue? Because Nai Chen is with her. On the chair deep in the hall, Chu Qingyu had a cold and beautiful smile on her lips. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Shock, the love letter was sent to the Empress by mistake. Author, MaleProtagonist. Chapter 447. So that's it? At this moment, many elders stood in awe at the same time. Since Chu Qingyu announced her relationship, their thoughts have become a little complicated, and they feel that they can't see the Empress clearly. But at this moment, the Empress's calm and decisive judgment once again made the elders feel awe. Sure enough, although the Empress is indeed a little immersed in love, she is still the Empress before. Even if she may seem a little different when facing love, she distinguishes between public and private, and always has the calmness and majesty of a great emperor. When dealing with major events and facing things that should be fulfilled, she will automatically turn back to the former Empress, and can clearly divide life and work. I didn't expect that we were shallow and made presumptuous guesses. It turns out that the Empress is still the former Empress. Elder Wang was so moved that he almost burst into tears. At this moment, he has completely determined his thoughts. Although the Empress is as sweet as a girl next door when she is in love, she will instantly regain her cold majesty when she really encounters something. The Empress can clearly distinguish between public and private. In formal occasions, it is naturally impossible to show affection. Such an Empress, how can people not be in awe? For a moment, the other elders were also moved and some were speechless. Looking at the scene of the elders, Chu Qingyu couldn't help but coughed lightly with some satisfaction. Then, according to the usual practice, open the court and report to this emperor. Yes. Elder Wang immediately responded excitedly. Then, he took out the memorial that he had prepared for a long time and reported loudly. Report to the Empress, today. But just as he started to speak, he suddenly noticed a voice entering the hall. It was Nai Chen who had just appeased Aolan. After looking at the elders standing solemnly in the hall, Nai Chen did not stop, but walked through the hall and came to Chu Qingyu. Nai Chen, how did you get there? This is against the rules. Elder Wang was stunned for a moment. You know, in front of the Empress, everyone can only respectfully stay away from the steps of the throne. So far, no one has ever been qualified to walk to the side of the Empress at the sect meeting. Not against the rules. Since ancient times, many emperors have had maids fanning their seats, so why is it against the rules? Nai Chen smiled. But you are a man. The Empress is still a woman. Elder Wang patted his head, feeling completely confused by this logic. Besides, whether I stand next to the Empress or the Empress stands next to me, isn't the situation the same? At this moment, Nai Chen spoke again. Even if it was not intentional, the imperial power faintly emanating from his voice made the elders stunned at the same time. Elder Wang's old body trembled slightly, and then he realized it. After returning from the imperial mausoleum, Nai Chen's status has changed. Now Nai Chen's strength is already that of a great emperor. According to the concept of Lanchuan continent that the strong are respected. All great emperors, no matter what their status was in the past, at this moment, Nai Chen is already his predecessor. Besides, what does the matter of the young couple have to do with an old man like me? I always think about it according to the old way of thinking. Realizing this problem, Elder Wang waved his hands repeatedly. Just pretend I didn't say it, just pretend I didn't say it. The hall fell silent. Chu Qingyu looked at Nai Chen with a little worry. She always felt that Nai Chen suddenly came to the hall and stood beside her, and he would have bad intentions in his heart. Seeing Nai Chen standing behind him but not making any moves, he felt a little relieved and looked at Elder Wang again. Elder Wang, go on. Well, I'll tell you then. With great embarrassment, Elder Wang continued to report. The Tianqing dynasty that Tianyuan Palace recovered 2 months ago is now developing stably. Not only has the originally chaotic order been restored, but various laws and regulations are also being actively formulated. The scope of laws and regulations is extremely wide. For ordinary people, there are regulations on night travel time, subsidy policies for the poor, and the prices of firewood, rice, oil, and salt. In terms of business, there are taxes on salt merchants, the time and place for selling grain. It also involves. The laws of a dynasty cover all aspects and are extremely numerous. Elder Wang is obviously well prepared and reads the contents of the memorial in his hand aloud. But these redundant contents are really too long and boring. They are all the same, and even Chu Qingyu is a little drowsy. Even though she was very patient, every time she held such a meeting, it was so boring that it was unbearable. This is why most emperors and powerful people would never deal with these things. Although Chu Qingyu's method of making every decision by herself can almost do everything without omissions and handle every matter clearly. But at this moment, it is really a bit torturous. Well, this decree is really good. This method is really beneficial to the people. Well, it's very good. Huh. Unconsciously, Chu Qingyu was already yawning in the double torture of fatigue and boredom. But Elder Wang's chattering voice still echoed in her ears. With her eyelashes drooping slightly and her head shaking gently, Chu Qingyu felt dizzy and almost fell asleep. With only the last ray of consciousness left, she forced herself to hold onto her body and tried to restrain the sleepiness that was sweeping over her. But even if she forced herself not to close her eyes, the feeling of wanting to sleep but not being able to sleep was obviously more torturous. But at this moment, Chu Qingyu suddenly felt a pair of hands gently resting on her shoulders. She forced her sleepy eyes to look behind her. But she found that it was Nai Chen's hands on her. Before Chu Qingyu could ask any questions, Nai Chen kneaded her shoulders with the mysterious technique of rubbing shoulders that had reached the state of great perfection. Suddenly, an extremely comfortable feeling permeated her whole body. As if she had slept very contentedly all night, Chu Qingyu's fatigue seemed to be swept away at this moment. Instead, it was replaced by an extremely relaxed and comfortable feeling. In just a moment, the boredom and fatigue just now completely disappeared. So comfortable. Chu Qingyu couldn't help but whispered. It feels good, right? I found that after reaching the realm of the great emperor and improving my comprehension of power, my shoulder rubbing technique has further improved. As he said, Nai Chen rubbed it again with a very mysterious technique. Ying. In addition to the boring voice of Elder Wang, a very pleasant voice suddenly sounded in the silent hall. Shock, the love letter was sent to the empress by mistake. Author, Mozuzi. Chapter 448. Elder Wang was obviously stunned for a moment and stopped reading. But the voice just now was gone in a flash. He hesitated for a moment and had to continue reading. Because some powerful merchants oppressed the people and did a lot of evil, the Tianqing dynasty imposed high taxes on some merchants entering the country. But at this moment, hey! Scored twice. Being interrupted again. Elder Wang's attention was completely attracted, but when he raised his head, he was stunned in an instant. He saw that Nai Chen had come behind the Empress, with his hands on her shoulders. The kneading technique was extremely mysterious, and it could almost perfectly stimulate every comfortable acupuncture point on the Empress's shoulders. And in this extremely comfortable feeling, even with her hands covering her cherry lips lightly, the Empress couldn't help but make a third sound. So comfortable. Looking at the Empress again, Chu Qingyu's cheeks were already full of shy blush at this moment. She also noticed the elders, who were completely stunned. Although she had confessed her relationship with Nai Chen, she still couldn't help feeling extremely ashamed when she accidentally made such a sound. Fortunately, there were only a few supreme elders discussing in Tianyun Hall. Chu Qingyu raised her head and looked at Nai Chen with some resentment. Why don't you do this at any other time? You have to do it now, at least wait until the meeting is over. The slightly comfortable voice and the blushing cheeks were obviously not convincing. Nai Chen couldn't help but smile. I can't help it. I saw that you seemed a little tired, so I couldn't help but want to help you recover. What if you are exhausted after the meeting? This sentence instantly hit Chu Qingyu's heartstrings. Even if she wanted to remain reserved in front of the elders and pretend to blame Nai Chen. But when Chu Qingyu heard that Nai Chen was so concerned about her health, and that he was taking action now just because of this, she couldn't help but feel a warm current flowing through her heart. Even the voice of refusal became a little small. But even so. However, just when Chu Qingyu was about to say one thing and mean another and force an excuse, Nai Chen took action again. Since entering the realm of the Great Emperor, his shoulder rubbing technique has been further improved in the Great Perfection realm. Now, his judgment and pressing techniques for acupoints are far from comparable to the past. Under this comfortable feeling, Chu Qingyu paused in the middle of his words. Closed his eyes lightly, completely immersed in this excellent feeling. Cough cough. Elder Wang, who was concentrating on reading the memorial just now, finally couldn't help but deliberately cough twice. Swish, Chu Qingyu sat up straight in a hurry. Recalling her actions and state as a cultivator just now, she suddenly felt ashamed and hurriedly tried to make her expression and voice much colder. I was distracted just now, Elder Wang, please continue. Elder Wang. How could she be distracted? The Empress was clearly immersed in the sweetness of love in the hall and didn't listen to anything he said at all. At this moment, his confidence just now seemed to be swept away. I never thought that the Empress would really start to show her affection in public. Is this going to make people live? With a sad face, Elder Wang had no way to disobey the Empress's order, so he had to break the silence and continue reading. For the flood problem of the Tianqing dynasty, other elders have led some disciples to help them properly repair it, and the funds needed. Shaking her shoulders comfortably, Chu Qingyu's current state has obviously improved a lot. This time, Elder Wang finally didn't hear any strange voices, and he read the things he wanted to report for a long time as he wished. But the Tianqing dynasty is not a huge mortal dynasty. After the Tianyun Palace took over, there were a lot of rectification work in the dynasty. Elder Wang didn't know how long he had been thinking about this. Although he listened carefully at the beginning, Chu Qingyu couldn't help but be distracted when she noticed Nai Chen beside him. In the main hall of the Tianyun Palace, only she was qualified to sit on the throne, so there was only one chair. Seeing that Nai Chen had been standing next to him for a long time, Chu Qingyu looked at him with some concern, but suddenly found something strange. Because there were hidden dangers in this breakthrough, the spiritual power in Nai Chen's body became a little frivolous. Under normal circumstances, it would not be easy to see, but at this moment, Nai Chen had been standing here for a long time. As time went by, the disordered spiritual energy began to become turbulent, and it was constantly surging in his body, and the speed and intensity were gradually increasing. This scene surprised Chu Qingyu. Before this, She had never seen Nai-Chen's realm and the spiritual energy he showed so frivolous. Thinking back, Nai-Chen didn't seem to have been injured recently, so what on earth was going on? As she thought about it, an idea suddenly made Chu Qingyu's cheeks slightly red. The only reason she could think of for the time being was that when she was writing a letter in the hall that day, Nai-Chen walked in, and then. Is it possible that it was because I joked and laughed at Nai-Chen at that time, causing him to ignore his body and force himself to hold on, damaging his foundation? When Chu Qingyu thought of this, she suddenly felt full of guilt. It seems that there is no other reason. It seems that it is because of me that Nai-Chen is in such a state now. Pursing her lips lightly, Chu Qingyu felt guilty and regretful. She did not expect that a moment of arrogant ridicule would have such a big impact on Nai-Chen. Here, take it. Finally, she could not help but take out the box that had been prepared for a long time. Chu Qingyu had already prepared the things in the box, but because of excessive shame, she had not been able to give it to Nai-Chen. But today, she felt that time was running out. What is this? Suddenly receiving a gift from the Empress, Nai-Chen was a little happy and couldn't help but be curious about what was inside. This is the elixir I made from the beast core of a beast king with the power of an emperor after hunting him. Although I don't have your mysterious elixir recipe handed down from ancient times, my alchemy skills are as good as my cooking skills, and the elixir I made should also have a good effect. Take it quickly, maybe it will be of great help to your current physical condition. Resisting the shame, Chu Qingyu handed the wooden box to Nai-Chen and opened the lid. In it, Nai-Chen clearly saw an elixir that was almost as big as a small steamed bun. The elixir was dark purple, and the hideous and twisted look like a monster's face made him almost throw the box away in an instant. Shock, the love letter was sent to the Empress by mistake. Author, MaleProtagonist. Chapter 449. The dark purple pill even seemed to have grown countless eerie tentacles. It was clearly a beast pill that had been refined long ago, but Nai-Chen seemed to see it suddenly wriggle. It looked ferocious and terrifying, but it seemed to be constantly tempting Nai-Chen, trying to make him eat it. The beast pill obtained by killing the Emperor Beast King was enough to show that Chu Qingyu had put a lot of thought into refining this pill. However, the pill in front of him, which was as big as a small fist, made Nai-Chen even unwilling to get close. Roar, roar, roar. A shrill laugh floated in the air, and waves of eerie oppression floated around. It was like a bewitching, and it seemed to have the desire to drag people into the abyss. Nai-Chen read all the books on alchemy in the Sutra Pavilion of Tianyun Hall, and knew almost all the pills since ancient times. But whether it was a super high-level pill of the 7th, 8th, or 9th grade. In the records, he had never seen any pill that could make a sound of laughter, or even generate thoughts. The pill refined by the Empress has simply broken the boundaries of living things. This is a terrifying pill. Not to mention myself, even if an emperor of the Jizhung realm came, if he took this pill, I'm afraid it would be enough to kill him. Ahem, forget it, wife, I won't take this pill. With a hint of embarrassment, Nai-Chen tried to push away Chu Qingyu's enthusiastic gift. But Chu Qingyu was obviously unwilling to put it away. Your breath is a little disordered now, maybe there is something wrong with your body. This pill was refined by this emperor himself. Although it may not be as good as the 9-yang chaos pill you refined, it should have a great effect on replenishing yang qi. Looking at Nai-Chen with concern, Chu Qingyu pushed the pill back again. Forget it, my dear. You really can't eat this. No, this is related to your health. You must not be so careless. Besides, this emperor also has a certain responsibility. Chu Qingyu's cheeks flushed slightly when she recalled the 2 hours she had just returned from the imperial mausoleum. Even though she felt a little ashamed, she was more concerned about Nai-Chen's body. Forget it? No, you must eat it. Believe in this emperor, this is extremely good for your body. Ahem, there are other ways to make up for the yang energy. If it doesn't work, my dear, you can try another way. What method? Guess for yourself, my dear. This. The closer she got to Nai Chen, the more Chu Qingyu could feel the current state of the floating and disordered spiritual energy in Nai Chen's body. She didn't know what the other method Nai Chen was talking about was. But as Nai Chen slowly approached, Chu Qingyu's soft cherry lips could not help but slowly meet him. In addition to the flood, there is also. And, as he was reciting, Elder Wang, who inadvertently raised his head, was stunned in an instant. In his eyes, he saw clearly. At this moment, the Empress was holding a wooden box in her hand, and her cheek was gradually approaching Nai Chen. The four looked at each other, and the two were full of affection. Not only that, Elder Wang saw the material of the wooden box in the Empress's hand at a glance. This wooden box was made of tan chun wood. This kind of wood grows in an uninhabited desert, and it is extremely difficult to approach because it is guarded by powerful beasts. But it is this firewood that is extremely difficult to obtain, but it only has the function of preserving yang energy, especially storing some precious aphrodisiac pills. Because of this, few cultivators would spend so much money to get sandalwood. Unless. That is to say, what is contained in this wood chips is. Not only Elder Wang, but other elders were completely unable to hold back. How could these old men and women watch such a scene? I never expected that the Empress would start to abuse dogs in Tianyun Palace. Ahem, it was an accident just now. I was distracted for a moment and couldn't help but. Chu Qingyu came back to her senses and realized that something was wrong, so she tried to explain. But the messy hair, the crystal lips, and the wooden box with unknown elixir in her hand made these words completely unconvincing. Empress, I have prepared the remaining memorials. Please take a look at them yourself. Elder Wang respectfully presented the remaining memorials. Elder Wang, what are you going to do? Chu Qingyu was a little confused. We old men are going to have a drink. Apart from the Tianqing dynasty, most of the other things are not important. If the Empress has any questions, we will be there at your beck and call. But now. Elder Wang turned around, as if there were tears in his eyes. The other elders were just like him. They felt that such a sweet atmosphere could not accommodate them at all in the cruel display of affection by the Empress. Chu Qingyu. As if she realized her sin just now, she did not stop the steps of several elders. But seeing their staggering steps, it seemed that they suddenly felt that these elders who were full of vigor and vitality before seemed to have aged many years in an instant. The atmosphere in the hall seemed to be silent for a long time. Chu Qingyu murmured with a little resentment, "Damn it, why do you have to pick the time of the meeting when there is no other time? Empress, aren't you the same?" After a moment of silence, the two of them laughed at the same time. After all, it is not easy to break the defense of those experienced elders. Looking at the staggering appearance of Elder Wang, I am afraid that this old man who has been clamoring to find a Taoist partner but has not made any practical moves for hundreds of years is probably preparing to take the first step to prevent being cruelly abused. Forget it, anyway, Elder Wang's reports are as boring as reading history books every time. It's better for me to read it myself. Chu Qingyu waved his hand casually and didn't intend to care about these trivial matters at all. Instead, he picked up the memorial with great interest and put it in front of himself and Nai Chen to read. In addition to the Tianqing dynasty that Tianyun Hall is dealing with recently, there are many memorials about other things. Which demon sects have risen recently, and which demon sects have fallen recently? Or where the secret realm appeared, and the magic weapons or rare treasures that attracted many sects appeared. Or some wars and disputes related to the human dynasty. Although most of these are not important, Chu Qingyu, as the Empress, needs to personally review them to ensure everything. Chu Qingyu did not waste much time scanning the memorials one by one, and read them much faster than Elder Wang. But among them, she suddenly saw a memorial that interested her. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Shock, the love letter was sent to the Empress by mistake. Author, MaleProtagonist. Chapter 450. In Huaidong City, the Zhueking sect was established here. It is said that there is a strange Zhueking goo in the section. As long as it is eaten, two people can forget their love and cut off all emotions. In just half a month, the Zhueking sect has developed extremely rapidly. It has held many conferences and almost all the participating couples have been converted into loyal believers, reaching a scale of thousands of people. Zhueking sect. Looking at the content written on the memorial, Chu Qingyu frowned slightly and fell into a moment of contemplation. She has never heard of such a strange Zhueking goo, and this Zhueking sect, which has exploded in just half a month, is simply weird everywhere. Chu Qingyu finally aroused a little interest in the content of the boring memorial. The slender jade hand like snow immediately rested on the memorial. When the three words Zhueking sect were touched, in an instant, an invisible spiritual power spread rapidly in all directions. The entire Tianyun Palace, the mountains and rivers, and even the entire Huaidong city in the Danding dynasty were all covered by this spiritual stone. Countless scenes appeared in Chu Qingyu's mind one after another. Clues and traces seemed secretive, but they could not escape her eyes at all. After a moment, she opened her clear autumn eyes and a faint smile appeared on the corners of her mouth. Sure enough, there are some guys who want to find a dead guy behind the scenes. Wife, do you see anything? Nai Chen also came forward with interest. Well, the matter of the Zhueking sect is that the remnants of the demon sect are secretly behind the scenes. Anyway, there is nothing to do, I think, I can go and take a look. Chu Qingyu coughed slightly with a little embarrassment. After all, interest is one thing, and on the other hand, it is also a small excuse to leave Tianyun Palace. It just so happens that I also want to see what this Zhueking goo is. This kind of big thing may really require me and the Empress to work together to solve it. Nai Chen immediately smiled knowingly and nodded approvingly. These small things don't require the Empress to go in person, but who would miss the opportunity to take a vacation? What's more, thinking back to the recent miserable situation in the sect where the elders and male and female disciples were abused by the various affectionate actions of himself and the Empress, Nai Chen couldn't help but feel a little embarrassed. You can't stop feeding dog food, and you can't stop in this life. But temporarily letting them go for a day is a good choice. Otherwise, it seems a bit too cruel. Let's go, my wife. Take the white and soft hand. Two figures stepped into the void and walked towards the direction of Huaidong City. Haha, so stupid. Do you think you can forget the evil you have sown if you want to? It's almost there, it's almost there. As long as I continue to accumulate strength, it won't be long before I can be resurrected. After waiting for hundreds of years, this day is finally here. In Huaidong City, a towering withered locust tree quietly rang out a gloomy and chilling whisper. Looking at the crowd slowly gathering, the laughter became more and more shrill and weird. But not only did no one pay attention, but looking up at the thick locust tree full of scars and wrinkles, many men and women couldn't help but feel a sense of admiration. I heard that as long as you eat the Zhueking goo of Lord Shenchu, you can forget everything in the past. Thanks to Lord Shenchu, I finally waited for this day. I hope Lord Shenchu will help me. It was time for the Zhueking sect to hold a sacrifice to the sacred tree again, and more people gathered in the direction of the locust tree. Moreover, most of them are men and women in pairs. The shape of the Zhueking goo is similar to a finger-sized strip of strange condensed qi. If one person eats it, he can forget all his love affairs. If a man and a woman eat it together, they can completely forget each other. When the Zhueking sect first arrived in Huaidong City, not many people cared about it, and not many people believed it. But as time went by, seeing more and more people eating Jweking goo and forgetting painful memories, more people were attracted. After all, the word love is the most complex emotion for people. It is elusive, difficult to change, painful, but unforgettable. If there is really a chance to give it up, even if there may be danger, there will be countless people willing to try. What's more, since the Jweking sect came to the city and awakened Lord Huishu, it has demonstrated various miracles one after another. In the memorial ceremonies that are more grand than the last, the number of people willing to take Jweking goo has increased by countless times. Some people even rushed to come because they were worried that the amount of Jweking goo sent by the God Tree Master was limited, fearing that they would lose the opportunity. God Tree Master, who has long given up all emotions, please give us a gift and help us forget the pain. Seeing that hundreds of people had gathered in front of the God Tree, the leader of the Jweking sect, who was wearing a black robe, with withered limbs and completely invisible, knelt in front of the tree and prayed loudly. The moment the voice fell, the dry and huge old locust tree suddenly seemed to have heard the prayer, and a strange light bloomed on the leaves, and a cold wind swept over. The cold wind made people feel a little cold on their backs, and the light blooming on the leaves was even a little blood red. But these fanatical followers had completely ignored these things, and were even more crazy and surprised by the scene in front of them. The Lord of the Divine Tree really has divine power. The gods who need to be worshipped are worshipped but do nothing. The Lord of the Divine Tree selflessly helps us, but does not even accept the offerings. This is the real great God. As the vision occurred, the strip of the heartless goo slowly fell in the blood-red light and landed in the hands of these fanatical believers. A miracle, this is really a miracle. Some of those who came here were alone, or they were once lovers. At this moment, there was no hesitation, and they ate the heartless goo directly. It seemed that the heartless goo would definitely help them forget the past and start a new life. They all looked at the old locust tree, their eyes filled with increasingly fanatical faith. Oh! Heartless goo, give me one to see, I am a little curious, can your heartless goo make me heartless? At this moment, two figures came from nowhere and suddenly floated in front of the crowd. In front of everyone, Nai Chen snatched the heartless goo that was about to fall into the hands of the high priest, and looked coldly at the old locust tree in front of him. There was clearly a hint of sneer and mockery in his eyes. Shock, the love letter was sent to the empress by mistake. Author, Mozuzi. Chapter 451. He actually dared to offend the priest. Nai Chen's actions instantly angered the believers who witnessed this scene. In their hearts, it was the high priest and the sacred tree that brought everyone to forget the pain of the great existence, and they would never allow offense. But now, Nai Chen's actions were like trampling their dignity and faith in the mud. Asshole, get out of here. How dare you be so disrespectful to the high priest? Do you know that the high priest is a monk and the guide of the gods to the world? Angry voices came one after another, and many people were already angry and even wanted to surround Nai Chen. It doesn't matter, as long as he eats this heartless poison and understands the greatness of the sacred tree. From now on, he will believe in the gods and become one of us. In the face of these boiling voices, the high priest just shook his head casually. A trembling and withered voice came from the black robe. Eat it, eat the Jweking goo, and you will know that all the emotions in this world are illusory. Crush these meaningless things completely and regain the true heart. Under the black robe, the eyes seemed to be filled with a touch of madness. No one could hear the evil laughter of the old tree. Nai Chen's actions did make it want to kill for a moment. But even if he wanted to kill this ignorant boy, he didn't have to do it himself. There are demon seeds in the Jweking goo that no one can detect. In fact, its real function is not to make people forget the pain of emotions. But it turns into a demon and devours people's emotions. And parasitizes in his body, controls people's spiritual consciousness, and gradually transfers vitality to the old locust tree. These people in the city who joined the Jweking sect seem to have no abnormality. but in fact, their personalities have already begun to change subtly, becoming more violent and manic, uncontrollable. It won't be long before not only the spirit will be completely devoured. Their vitality and the power in their bodies will all be sucked away by the demon soul hidden in the locust tree, who has been waiting for who knows how long. Eat it if you want. By the way, this thing does look delicious. Holding Chu Qingyu's hand, Nai Chen had already seen the clues of the matter. The demon species left over from ancient times are indeed strange and elusive for ordinary cultivators. They are often cunning and insidious after reviving from chaos. They will try their best to collect power and harm humans to prepare for their revival. But in the eyes of the great emperor, the tricks it secretly performs are actually as vulnerable as child's play. Pick up the candy called the Heartless Goo, which is actually just a candy with hidden demon species. Nai Chen directly holds it in his mouth and smiles at Chu Qingyu. Wife, the other side. Huh. Chu Qingyu was stunned for a moment. Although I just observed that the way those people took the Heartless Goo seemed to be to eat it whole when there was only one person, and to bite one side and break it in half when there were two people. But do you really have to eat it like that? Even though there were no cultivators that she knew here, Chu Qingyu still felt extremely ashamed to do this in front of so many people. Nai Chen smiled. This is called attacking them by surprise. Only by eating this, won't they relax their vigilance? But we don't need to attack them by surprise at all. If we want to solve the demon soul that secretly controls these things, I can just raise my hand and uproot the whole tree and destroy his soul. Nai Chen. I didn't expect that the female emperor would be so logical this time, and analyze it so thoroughly that my big trick failed. But since I'm here, and I happen to encounter such an interesting Heartless Goo, how can I not try it? Who cares? I just want to show my affection to you, my wife. Isn't that a reason? Nai Chen said without hesitation. Then, he bit one side of the Jweking Goo and put the other side close to the soft cherry lips. So shameful. A faint blush suddenly appeared on her cold cheeks. Chu Qingyu couldn't help but look around cautiously, fearing that there were cultivators who knew her identity. If this kind of thing spreads out, the face of the empress will be lost. Damn it, then eat it. Today, I must pull out that demon soul and beat him up. Finally, after hesitating for a long time, Chu Qingyu licked her cherry lips shyly, and slowly approached without opening her eyes, biting the other end of the Jweking Goo. Each of them bit a section. The small candy stick was not long, so the soft lips were very close. As long as they moved forward a little more, they seemed to overlap. Strange, why do I feel like I can't see through the identities of these two people? Forget it, it should be because I haven't recovered yet, and my spiritual consciousness is still flawed. But these two people really look extraordinary. If I absorb their flesh and blood and essence, maybe, it can really help me be born, ha ha ha. In the old locust tree, the demon soul that has been hiding here for a long time couldn't help but laugh triumphantly in the dark. It can feel that it will not take long to accumulate enough spiritual energy to revive itself. And these two people may very well become its last and best bait. Eat it quickly, faster. Looking at the two people approaching slowly, its eyes have become more greedy and crazy. As long as the two people get closer, the candy will break and release the demon seed from it. The lips slowly pressed together, and it seemed that it was about to be as the demon soul in the locust tree wished. But at this moment, crack! Nai Chen exerted a little force and directly snatched the other end of the candy in Chu Qingyu's mouth. Then, he easily bit off the whole candy and ate it directly. The taste is so-so. After all, the real sweetness is not the candy, but... In front of everyone, Nai Chen actually took the opportunity to approach without hesitation and kiss Chu Qingyu's fragrant and soft lips. Eating candy is just an appearance, and taking advantage of the empress is the real purpose. Chu Qingyu, ////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////// all, Nai Chen couldn't help but smile slightly. The attack on the Empress was successful.